Hey guys, Tech Motorsports Eb here, and here we have today is my 2014 Ram 3500, and it is fuel service time. So I'm going to end up changing the fuel filters, one in the engine compartment and the other one underneath the chassis above the drive line. So let's get started on that. Well, it didn't take too long for a little surprise. I'm a little upset, but I guess that's what happens when you let something sit outside for a while. Let's take a look. It looks like I got a little critter in my engine bay. Started making a little home there with my my battery cover, and even made a mess over here on this one as well. Well, apparently they were even hungry. This is my ABS cable above the rear axle. They started getting into that as well. Luckily I don't have an ABS light on, but I'm gonna have to end up replacing it. Great. So with my 2014 Ram, I try not to put so many miles on it, as I just end up using it to tow my race car around. But you know, letting it sit, not having enough room to put this thing in my garage, of course, things like that will happen. I try to use it just to keep things moving, but since I did finally get my M3 daily, running, been kind of driving that around more. So but yeah, I mean, that's what happens when something sits around outside. Kind of sucks. I guess I'm just gonna have to start using it more so I could get these guys to stay out of my truck, or out of any vehicle that sits outside, to be honest with you. So after kind of looking at in the engine compartment just to see what mess, if they chewed any wires, looks like I found a little coolant leak on my truck. Let me show you where it's at. So what I noticed is I had some reddish stuff right there. And then of course when I lifted up the truck, now that it's inside the garage, I could smell the antifreeze. And then I'm looking at the shield and I could see it spewing. And so what I ended up looking was, it seems to be this hose right here with a plastic ring around it. That's where I seem to be getting my leak. And then of course I look down, which you probably won't be able to see, and I can see some coolant sitting on my gearbox. So great, this is not the time to find this, and the reason is I'm about to load my race car up on a trailer and head to Sebring the next day. So great. So here I am underneath the front axle of the truck, and there is the drain tube right there, in the clear or yellowish one for the fuel filter in the engine compartment that is connected to the drain line. That's the OEM one, and what I ended up doing is I added an additional fuel line, so that way when I drain it, it doesn't go everywhere, so it'll go directly into my drip pan. So one little easy fix, I got it zip tied there to the axle. Yeah, it'll be a lot easier and less cleaning to do at the end. So here's the fuel filter canister in the engine compartment, and there is my little drain valve, so that way it could empty the container and I could swap out the filter. So let's get to it. You hear that? Oh yeah, in my drip pan, not on the floor. Alright, so I've got my socket. It's an 1 1/8" for the filter cap, and an extension with a swivel. She's draining a little more now that the pressure's been released. So making sure it goes in the pan and not on the whole floor. So just gotta find that little slot. It's just a little oval shape. Just gotta twist it around and it'll fall into place. And of course, can't forget about your new O-ring. Darn it. I just tighten it. On the cap it says 32 Newton meters. I usually just tighten it by hand. I get it nice and snug. Take that back, that's 30.5 Newton meters. So yeah, I tighten it by hand. I get a good nice grip on it because I don't want to over tighten it. It could be a pain in the butt to get off and it could strip. I've seen it hurt, some people doing that. And also, once you get the filter in, do not forget to close your drain tube. Not that I've done that before, but don't forget to do that. All right, let's get down to the one above the drive shaft, underneath the chassis. So on the radiator hose, I did find one online. I'm going to go ahead and replace it with an aftermarket one. That way it's got some hose clamps instead of these plastic rings that are on there. So I'll go ahead and get that ordered. I'll keep an eye on it once I get it started and see how bad it's leaking and go from there. So, all right, here's the most messy one. It's the one over the drive shaft. So what I've done is, I don't think you can see, I've got a rag over the drive shaft itself, so when I bleed it, it's just gonna pour out and it'll be a little bit on the rag or most of it on the rag, and then it'll start dripping down on my pan below. This is not my favorite one. This just makes such a mess. Now I just disconnected the sensor up there. Alright, so I got my fuel filter strap attached. Makes easy do of this filter. It doesn't catch into something. There we go. Little old tool back from my diesel technician days. So gotta make sure that both the O-ring on the sensor and the O-ring on the filter itself are replaced. So this one you have to push up and spin. Oh boy, that's gonna leak right there if I end up doing that. Dang it. Repositioning my pan so it doesn't leak all the diesel fluid on the floor. Sweet. Now it does state on the filter to pre-fill it, as I just don't have diesel fuel laying around, and every time I've done it, I have not filled it, but what I end up doing is I just prime the system. So stay tuned for that. All right, so here we are starting to cycle the fuel system, trying to get prime to both fuel filters. So you just got to cycle it on, cycle it off. Usually I wait until the glow plug light is off, and then I turn it back off and keep cycling. I normally do it about between 10 and 15. And also, if you pay attention, you could hear the fuel filling in the fuel filter in the back above the drive shaft. And also, this is a good time to check to make sure you did close all your drain valves, as you would start getting leaks right now. So I'm gonna keep cycling it and then start it here in a few seconds. All right, here we go. Now it's time to check the coolant and check everything underneath just to be sure everything is 100%. Make sure you have no leaks on the cap or the fuel filters in the back or the engine compartment. So I checked everything underneath, ran around both the one above the dry shaft and the engine compartment. No leaks, everything is good, so yay, thumbs up on that. And I also checked the radiator hose, and the radiator hose doesn't seem to be leaking, so it's got to be a very small leak. What I'm going to end up doing is drive it around and just to keep an eye on it and see how bad it is leaking, because I do need to use the truck the next day. So and also, before you call it a day, you got to go in and reset the fuel. So it tells you exactly there how to do it. And there we go. Bam! 99%. Alright guys, so I pulled the truck out. It's been running on fast idle for about 20 minutes or so. Went underneath the chassis just to make sure there were no other leaks, everything checked out fine. As you can see, it wasn't really a hard procedure to do. It's just mainly more locating your fuel filters, and simple, messy but simple. And I'll keep an eye on that coolant hose. I've been running it, keep an eye on that, see if it can build pressure. And so far so good as of right now as well. I barely get any leaks, or actually it's not leaking at all. So I'm sure it's when it's running under load I may get something, but I will put a couple miles on it today just to make sure everything pans out fine with that. So again, guys, I appreciate you watching. Like always, like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.